All right, welcome into Are You Cirrus? Episode 30. Let that sink in. 30 episodes. I am meteorologist Andrew Dockery, meteorologist here in the morning.
And Jamie Arnold, chief meteorologist here at WMBF News in Myrtle Beach.
And we say, I was going to say here, but you said Myrtle Beach, so you just got to my thinking because I know people are listening and they're not watching all the time. I did pull those numbers for you.
Yes.
It's about normal. In fact, we've had more listeners lately than watchers.
Really?
But it's like everything's kind of shifted. So I wonder if it's just us. Maybe we're easy to listen to. But if it's a guest, I don't know.
I don't know.
Overall, we have more views.
Yeah. I've been told to have a face for radio, so maybe it's easier to listen than to watch.
Especially since we're talking for 40, 45 minutes, whatever it might be. But yeah, welcome in. If this is your first time for Are You Cirrus? You picked a doozy.
You picked a doozy. If this is your first time,
you may want to pause.
And maybe go back to a couple of the fun ones.
Happy Hour with Lauren would be a good one to start.
This one's going to be fun, but it's going to be, we're going to go weather heavy on this. I'm excited about it. I actually had to kind of like brush up on some stuff this morning.
Me too. I was sitting here like all week kind of thing. I'm like, okay, now how serious do I want to go?
Yeah.
Because it is going to be a little bit tougher, and I think we can kind of go there and then also dumb it down as well. Because let's be honest, both you and I love this topic.
We do.
But we're still not experts at it.
Nope.
I'm going to tell you right now, there are people way smarter than us that know way more than what we're about to talk about. So we can kind of push some of those resources later. Before we get to that, we'll kind of talk about the weekend. How was your weekend?
The weekend was good, filled with Halloween festivities. So it was a good weekend.
Really good weekend.
It was a good weekend. Had the party Saturday night.
Oh, the party was great. Everything was decorated perfectly.
That's kind of my favorite part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You walk in, it's like you had the spooky board.
Oh, yeah.
Said the charcuterie board, the spooky board.
It was good. And we got to talk about your costume.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, that was Emily.
You and the family.
The wigs were a work in progress. Emily's wig cracked me up. You all could probably see it. We were the Jonas Brothers. And it was Emily's idea to go as the Jonas Brothers.
I think that was fantastic. And Brooks even had a little tiny microphone, which was like the cutest thing ever.
He just wanted to chew it.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, it was fantastic for sure. And then your outfit, creativity-wise, right up there next to Lauren's, I think. I liked yours because obviously it's weather.
It was probably the easiest costume I've ever done. I was El Nino, ordered a sweatshirt off of Amazon that had a hurricane on it, threw on a sombrero, a bathing suit. Done.
That's awesome. And if you missed it, Lauren's was Taco Bell.
Taco Bell. Yeah.
So her fiance Chase was wearing a taco outfit.
Yep.
And she was
dressed as Belle.
Which,
it was good.
Clever.
Yeah.
Can we also talk about, you're watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, it's November.
Yeah.
Let the Christmas music play.
Christmas music. It's gotten cold just in time for it. So, yeah, I love it. November.
It's fantastic. And your Halloween costume timed out perfectly with this episode.
I planned it that way.
Welcome to Are You Cirrus, where we are planning our life around this podcast. I say we dive into the stuff now, and then we lighten it up at the end.
Okay.
In fact, I would say if you're watching this and you're like, oh, here we go, we have a fun game at the end. We're going to see if you can beat Jamie and I when it comes to our winter weather bold predictions.
Okay.
So I got some fun things there.
This is all going to be a surprise for me because I have no idea about your game or your bold predictions. So.
Well, I'm going to need help with the game too because I was thinking and toying around with a couple ideas. We'll talk about that here in a second. First, though, here we go. Winter weather outlook.
Winter weather outlook.
It's been years since I've done one of these.
I've never done one.
Really?
Because, yeah. I mean, officially, publicly.
Yeah,
in my
100%.
head, I bat around what I think is probably going to happen for the winter.
Yeah.
Not really sure what my accuracy rate is, but
it's not going to be accurate. Well, I would say it's hard to be accurate with these.
But if there is a winter pattern that you can somewhat reliably count on, it is an El Nino winter.
Yes.
Now, there are always caveats, and we're going to talk about those caveats. And we're talking specifically for this area. So that person watching from Iran or Tennessee, sorry. We're talking here.
And I could probably give you, when we get to that part, a little bit more of regions. and you'll see some of the graphics that kind of imply that, like, oh, hey, there I am. Oh, or here we go.
Yeah.
But yes, most of our topics are going to be here in the Carolinas, and that's where we've kind of got down to the nitty gritty. So we'll start very basic. And if we get too far ahead, you just pull me back because I love this stuff.
Okay.
El Nino, La Nina.
Yes.
You dress as El Nino. We talked about it as little boy.
Little boy. It's El Nino comes from the name little boy, but also Christ child.
Yeah.
Because El Nino usually reaches its peak around Christmas.
Yeah.
And because it refers to a warming of the water off the equatorial Pacific, so the Pacific Ocean off of South America. It usually reaches its peak around Christmas. So Christ boy is where the name came from. So El Nino refers to that warming water. And we've been talking about El Nino for the entire hurricane season. It's carrying over into this upcoming winter. So here we go.
And La Nina, obviously, for those that may be familiar with winter outlooks, simply the opposite.
Yep.
So we talk about warmer water out for El Nino. This would be colder water for La Nina. You don't have to worry about it. La Nina for us is typically a little bit opposite, so drier and also warmer for us in the Carolinas. We're going to get to the fun part, which is El Nino. Also a big thing with El Nino, and I think we have the typical El Nino setup. The trade winds weakening, which basically means winds that go opposite of the United States, they weaken, and that allows for this active storm pattern to unfold that you don't typically see in other winter setups, which is the key.
That is the key. So during an El Nino winter, the jet stream, the southern branch of the jet stream, during the winter, you can actually get sort of 2 and sometimes even 3 branches
really cool.
of the jet stream. The southern branch is the one that really impacts us the most, and that is the one that typically goes west to east across the country and carry storm systems with it. They come ashore, usually California, Southern California, move across the deep south, and then out over the Atlantic Ocean. That active storm track during El Nino tends to produce a wetter than normal winter for us, because a lot of those storms and a lot of times that jet stream, that southern jet, crosses over the Gulf of Mexico, the northern Gulf of Mexico. Gulf of Mexico, even in the winter, is just loaded with moisture. So each one of those storms picks up a ton of moisture. It heads off to the east and the northeast, and we get dumped on a lot.
Yeah, and dumped on to, want to make sure we say it, does not always mean snow, even though I want it to be.
Yep.
Dumped on in most of these winter outlooks are precipitation only. You're not going to see them say, here's snowfall.
Right.
Precipitation and temperature.
Yeah.
So, like you said, the typical El Nino, wetter and cooler for us. We'll see.
Yeah, so we actually have a map of this that kind of shows the general highlights of what an El Nino looks like. Just a typical El Nino. The Carolinas, down through the deep south, Florida, back into Texas, all the way into Southern California. Cooler and wetter than normal. The cooler part is oftentimes, though, a function of wetter. Not so much that it's colder, but because we have a lot of clouds and a lot of rain, typically during an El Nino winter, your temperatures are held down. If you look at that map, notice north of us and west of us, it's actually warmer and drier than normal. So how is it warmer than normal north of us, but cooler than normal where we are? Because you'd think typically that cold air comes down. The northern branch of the jet stream during El Nino tends to stay a little further north, but also tends to stay a little more west to east. So you don't get as many big surges and persistent surges of cold air. So, yeah, I'll stop there before I'm trying to reel myself in.
And if you get those persistent surges of cooler air, it's typically further east in an El Nino pattern. So you're not going to have a ton of cold snaps coming down across, Montana, Seattle, Washington, the state. Those are the areas that would be a little bit more warmer. You get a lot of ridging. We've talked about ridges, high pressure. You get a lot of high pressure systems up there. That's just one ingredient to winter weather. There are so many more. And one of those that comes into, all right, is colder air going to be able to make it to the Carolinas? Comes in when we talk about the NAO.
My favorite.
Oh, it's so good.
My absolute favorite. And I had a really
and
good
I
time.
knew this was your baby.
I had a really good time building the graphics for NAO. So NAO, this is where we really can't get too
We're
complicated.
graduating so much here on Are You Cirrus?
I'm even pulling out my notes here because I need the map to reference. So NAO, let's start with what it stands for. North Atlantic Oscillation.
Yep.
There's a positive phase and a negative phase of the NAO. It's sometimes also called the Greenland block.
Yeah.
So let's think about an interstate. During, and I'm actually sort of following this analog because I read it this morning.
I love
this analogy, rather, and it was so good. So during a positive NAO, a positive North Atlantic oscillation, you get a big area of high pressure that forms out over the Atlantic Ocean. You get an area of low pressure that forms up near Greenland, and the circulation between those two basically allows the jet stream to kind of stay what we call zonal. So it's more of a west to east pattern. That tends to lock cold air up in Canada because what you need to get cold air down are big buckles in the jet stream. You need big buckles in the jet stream to get that cold air to pour in out of Canada. A positive NAO is unfavorable for that. We'll go back to the interstate analogy. You got a nice long shot straight interstate. Your storm tracks are just kind of going right along there. Everything's just kind of zipping along, but there's not a lot of intrusion of cold air behind each one of those. That's a positive NAO. We hate to see a positive NAO.
It's the worst if you're a winter weather fan.
Yeah. So last winter around here was a big positive NAO winter. Very mild winter last year.
Yeah.
Outside of that one little cold shot at Christmas, it was overall pretty mild. A negative NAO, so the North Atlantic oscillation phase goes negative. Let's take that interstate, but instead of a nice straight shot, you're going to start throwing in detours. So you get what we call the Greenland block. And what that simply shows is the high pressure out of the Atlantic gets pushed further off to the east, way out east in the Atlantic. That allows you to start getting some big dips in the jet stream.
It's the best.
Big dips in the jet stream. The jet stream sort of dives down. I feel like I need my green screen right now.
Yeah, right?
So what typically happens, the jet stream dives down over the East Coast, sometimes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico and Florida, and then kind of rides up the coast. That allows much colder air to come down from Canada, especially across the eastern half of the U.S. And it also, because it usually when you get a negative NAO, it kind of locks in for a little bit. It'll stick around for 2 or 3 weeks. That allows not only the cold air to come down, but to stay down.
Yeah.
So you get reinforcing shots of cold air. So you get the cold air. The other great thing about a negative NAO is with the jet stream dropping so far south of us even, you line up the good storm track. And the really good storm tracks that we need in the Carolinas for decent winter storms, more often than not, are associated with a negative NAO. So you have that cold air pouring down into the Gulf of Mexico. One of the things you need to get a good, strong, low pressure to form is a really sharp temperature contrast. So you consider how warm the Gulf of Mexico is, even in the winter. You start charging some bitter cold air down over there, you get that contrast, low pressure develops, and you get that perfect storm track. Which for us, for snow lovers around here, is low pressure developing over the Gulf of Mexico. The trick is you got to keep it moving east instead of making that turn to the north.
Yeah.
So for us, if you're looking for snow in the Carolinas, low pressure develops in the northern central Gulf of Mexico and crosses Florida more or less in the middle and then heads out into Florida.
Yeah.
If it starts inching further north, if you get low pressure that, let's say, passes Savannah or Jacksonville, Florida, that starts to pull warm air up in here. and that is going to give us all rain.
I always say south of Jacksonville, and you got a shot.
South of Jacksonville, you got a shot for sure. All of our big snowstorms have occurred in a negative NAO. So White Christmas 1989, the big famous snowstorm, biggest snowstorm in South Carolina history in 1973 was a negative NAO, big low pressure crossing central Florida and then kind of swinging wide right out over the Atlantic. That allows the cold air to stay in, and you throw some moisture back in it.
I think, too, since we've introduced probably a couple new terms for you, it's important to realize, too, when we're forecasting and talking about these outlooks, these are outlooks that are generated because a lot of this we can look forward to, say, El Nino, La Nina. We knew this was coming months in advance.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about the NAO is it's a little bit more higher resolution than saying an El Nino, La Nina.
Yeah.
And there's some subtle changes where you're like, oh, couple weeks, that NAO is going negative.
Yeah,
we got a shot.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we look for as we head into the winter. It's one of the things I look at all the time is the NAO. Is it going to be negative? Is it going to be positive? If it starts to flip negative, and if it looks like there's plenty of cold air around, that's when you kind of start. Yeah, we're going to start watching that week or that week. You know, it's not a guarantee every time we have a negative NAO. Doesn't mean it's going to snow.
Yeah,
it happens all the time. But if you have everything else lining up just right, then you can get things to work. What I'm a little optimistic about this winter is if we can score a really good negative NAO and keep that cold air coming down, you combine that with an active storm track because of El Nino.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Could be in business.
Well, and that active storm track from El Nino doesn't just allow us the shot alone, but then you get the negative NAO. When you have an El Nino, especially down here, we're talking system after system after system.
Yeah.
I mean, this winter, not to give it away, is going to be a wet winter.
It's going to be wet.
It's going to be active.
Yeah, unless barring any kind of significant change or some other factor that sort of takes over, it's going to be wet. And El Nino winters, I remember a few that, I mean, it's just 98 was one. That was a super El Nino, so we're not anywhere near that strong. But, I mean, you were getting a couple inches of rain literally every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
You know, so flooding can sometimes be a concern around here for El Nino winters.
Yeah, and it's important, too, when we're talking about these El Ninos. They're kind of classified, and I'm glad you said it, weak, moderate, strong, and there's a couple years where it's been just very strong. And it's all based off the degrees above for the warm waters in Celsius.
Yeah.
When we're talking, you know, a strong El Nino, 1.5 degrees Celsius is all we're talking.
Yeah.
To change the entire flow.
Yeah.
Of
around the entire globe.
Which is nuts.
Global. Yeah.
The winds die down from it, and that's going to be our big story. Anything you want to touch on so far? Did we miss anything?
No, let's recap. Real bottom line. Typical El Nino winter. Cool and wet. Looking for the NAO.
Yep.
To give us cold air, that increases our odds of snow. But we always have to go with the caveats. If it's a really weak El Nino, let's say it weakens more than forecast.
Yeah.
That could change how things work. You can have other factors that may sort of outweigh El Nino. Think about this hurricane season. And at the beginning of the season, the forecast was for this to become a very strong El Nino during hurricane season. Never really reached the very strong category.
Yep.
It didn't quite meet that threshold. And the warm Atlantic sort of overpowered El Nino. Typically gives us a quieter hurricane season.
Yep.
We're now, I think, fourth busiest on record, fourth busiest during a El Nino winter. That's unusual, or summer rather. So there are always caveats. Not this past winter, but the winter before was a very strong La Nina winter for us. It was cold and wet, and we even got a little snow and ice. So there are caveats.
Yeah, and welcome to Forecasting 101. So I'm going to say the word ENSO, which is just basically El Nino Southern Oscillation. We can look at that. We can look at to kind of see the future of this El Nino and what it's forecast. Basically, the water temperatures out in the sea surface. There was actually just recently, like a week or two ago, the update from the Climate Prediction Center, where they say, hey, we're going to just give you what we have on our models and break it down into the percentages. Probability.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way for you all to understand it. Weak El Nino forming, 100% all the way through. It will be an El Nino. Moderate El Nino, 99% through December, 97% through January, 92% through February. So more than likely, we will have at least a moderate El Nino. Check. Got it. Strong El Nino is where we start to dip a little bit. It was stronger, like you said, in the summer. Now it's 77% through December, 75% through January, and 62%. The very strong is like 40%.
Yeah.
The very strong El Nino is not going to happen.
Right.
Why I say that is because your NAO is your bread and butter.
Yeah.
I've ran a lot of analogs over the past couple weeks. We're about to geek out.
All right.
I'm going to need your help here. So, for those that don't know, analogs are kind of a way we can look at the atmosphere and what it looks like now, look at Enzo soundings or futuristic forecasts and compare them to previous years. You go first.
You geeked out on that one.
I'm going to geek out.
So let me
Please do.
Let me define an analog a little easier. So you basically take a snapshot of what your weather is now. Whether with El Nino, with other patterns that are globally happening. At this time, or over the summer, or through the fall. You can adjust at any time. You look at what's happening now, you go back in the past, find similar years that had a very similar setup, and you use that to see what happened in the future of those years. So that's how an analog works.
I like it.
Is that better?
Yeah, because
I was
excited.
INSO indexes. Yeah. Okay.
I'm excited.
All right.
So I pulled some analog years.
Analog years for us.
Correct. And I pulled about, I think there was a total of 12.
Okay.
I immediately nixed the ones that did not have an El Nino winter.
Yeah, because,
What's the point?
What's the point?
It doesn't show me anything.
Yeah.
5 came up.
Okay.
This is where I'm going to need your help. I pulled some numbers too, just for some indication. So, just on record, previous El Nino years, you think of some of the very strong, we're not going to have to worry about that. But strong and moderate, you can see all my years written here. The analog years that came up with an El Nino, 1957-58.
Okay. I wasn't quite born then.
Well, I'm not going to, but I did look that one up. 1965-1966.
Okay.
2002-2003, which I thought was really interesting.
That was a good winner. Big winner in the Carolinas.
1994-1995.
Not a big winner in the Carolinas.
And 2009-2010.
Fantastic winner.
When I pulled those, there's a shot.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is if you look at just those 5 years, with once again taking the snapshot of where we are now and what this could look like come January, December. December was a little bit more milder, but January and February came roaring in like a
kind of
lion.
common in El Nino.
Yeah.
For December to be a little bit milder.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, as you mentioned, winter comes roaring to life.
You mentioned 2009, 2010. Myrtle Beach, 3.5 inches. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Florence, 3.5 or 3 is what it says.
A lot of these pictures here are actually from the 9-10
Just
winter.
let it happen.
Yeah.
Let it
Yeah.
happen.
And I actually took most of these pictures the morning after that snow, just riding around because it was my first time seeing snow like this in Myrtle Beach. Yeah.
4 out of the 5 had some sort of snow in Myrtle Beach. 1965-66 only had a trace. Florence had half an inch. 2003 had half an inch in Myrtle, 1.5 in Florence.
You said that 2-3?
Yeah, that was 2-3.
Winter of 2-3 was a big winter, especially in North Carolina.
I was going to say also the Ohio Valley got rocked in 2-3.
Yeah. But I think there were also some ice storms around here. That was before I got here, but I remember covering some big ice storms in the Carolinas that winter.
And then 58, because I pulled that because I was like, I don't know if Jamie's gonna. No. Florence got 7.5 inches of snow.
Nice.
Myrtle Beach got 1.5. So why do I bring that up? I'm not saying that that's gonna happen, but it's a good indication that with the pattern that we have, there are chances. And if we're gonna get it, I think it's gonna have to be toward the end of the season. Now, you said there's a caveat. Here's what I'm worried about.
Yep.
When you look at the pattern right now, it's like all 5 of those years flip the switch quick. Because right now, we don't look like El Nino.
Nope.
We're completely opposite, which worries me.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting here, it's almost like we're sitting here and we know there's potential, and you're just
waiting.
It's like waiting for the person you invited to a thing at 5 o'clock, but it's like 5:30.
5:30.
Like, where are they at?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about winter right now. Like I want to go all in on it, but then I look at where we are here in November. Like the snowpack, there's none.
Yeah.
But I know there's time to come.
Yeah. It's early. It's a gradual process to get sort of the overall winter pattern going.
Yeah.
To get it established. You know, we've got another good 4 to 6 weeks before I think we really start to get a clearer picture of how the winter pattern is going to evolve.
Yeah. You want to make any bold predictions?
After you do. You've been talking about it for 3 weeks.
Sometime mid-December,
Yeah.
we get an extremely cold shot of air
Okay.
to set everything up.
Really?
Negative NAO. I just got a feeling just
Really?
looking at everything. It might be late December, but I think once we get that shot,
Yeah.
we're in business.
Could be.
And I really think, my bold prediction, we see snow here in Myrtle Beach this year. And I think we see accumulating snow over an inch in the PD.
Over an inch in the PD.
In the PD. Not in Myrtle. No, God,
Okay.
I would never.
Okay.
But we see snow.
So that is your bold prediction.
We see snow in Myrtle Beach this year.
So flakes in the air counts.
Not flurries, flakes.
Flakes, like
We
legit
see,
snow.
We
in
see
the
legit
air.
snow in the air. Will it stick? I don't know.
Okay.
But that's my bold prediction. It just feels right.
Okay.
But once again, the caveat, we got to have it come. And I know that, like, sounds obvious.
Yeah.
But you're just sitting there waiting, and everything looks good. And I've seen this time after time where it's like, strong El Nino, moderate El Nino.
Yeah.
But if we can see a strong El Nino here, I really like the chances
Yeah.
of snow in Myrtle Beach.
I mean, just based on everything, the odds are better. All right, so I'm going to
now, granted, that's 3 months out.
Yeah. I'm going to counter your bold prediction with my bold prediction.
Uh-oh.
And my bold prediction
If
takes
it's-
us to the other end, other
I
potential aspect
almost did this. In fact, I have another bold prediction regarding that, but yes.
of El Nino, because I kind of knew where you were going with your bold prediction.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got to go somewhere
Yours
else.
is a good one.
December, January, February, so the heart of our winter. I'm going to say that Myrtle Beach is placed under a tornado watch at a minimum of 2 times.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a fair point. I think that's fair. I really do. And here's what's crazy about this. You get that active storm track, strong low pressures. I can easily see us sitting there a week out saying, severe weather setup, winter weather potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depending on what side and what that low track is,
Yeah.
I could totally see
Potentially both happening simultaneously in the Carolinas.
that. Yeah.
We could easily have a tornado watch here along the coast, and the mountains are getting dumped on
Yeah.
with snow.
Yeah.
Again, that active storm track during El Nino, if those low pressures and those storms are tracking south of us, it's chilly, it's damp, it's potentially wintry somewhere in the Carolinas. If that storm track is a little further north, and these areas of low pressure track from, say, Birmingham to Atlanta to Charlotte, that puts us on that warm side.
And it doesn't take much.
And it doesn't take much in the winter, because in the winter, what you're lacking in warmth and humidity that you think of for typical severe storms, you are more than making up for in energy in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Jet stream energy, insane jet stream energy.
Low-level
In an
jet
element-
out
Yeah, low-level jet stream energy just howling. A couple thousand feet above us. That can get a good setup. El Nino springs, El Nino winters, big severe weather seasons.
Yeah.
Typically. especially for the Deep South.
I even feel confident saying that we see both.
I could go with it.
think this winter,
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and say it. I think this winter we see tornado watches and we see snow.
Could happen in the same week.
It really could.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy. And it
Yeah.
gets me so excited just because we're going to be busy.
Yeah. If we can lock into that El Nino pattern, yes, it can be busy and it can be fun.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me and you both.
Yeah.
I think we all would be. My other bold prediction was an early start to severe weather season, but you basically
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah.
I think February is active. I think March is active until we can kind of flip that script, which
Yeah.
isn't going to happen until probably at least summer. Trying to think. Oh, game. So
Yeah.
I need a city.
Okay.
I was thinking Charlotte,
Yeah.
and we predict the first accumulating snowfall for a said city.
Let's add to that.
Okay?
Let's go for the first accumulating snowfall for said city.
Okay.
But let's also go for the winter snowfall total for said city.
Oh, Lord, okay.
Because a lot of times in the Carolinas, it snows once a winter.
Yeah.
You know?
So let's do Charlotte.
Let's do Charlotte.
They average, I think, 5 inches a year.
Like 6.
6?
Yeah, 5.5.
It was
6.
like 5.5, something like that. Okay.
Is the average snowfall for Charlotte.
So if you're still here with us, welcome. Thank you for sticking around. We need you to answer this as well. So give us a date for the first snowfall that accumulates. All it has to be is a trace. And then give us the total for the season.
First is January 17th.
Ooh. God, I don't like that. Okay. I already had my note.
Total for the season for Charlotte. I'm going to go 5.5.
Okay.
I'm going to ride the average, but I'm also going to say I'm going to expand on my bold prediction for Charlotte.
Okay.
5.5, but that comes from 2 separate storms.
Okay. It is so tough, too. El Nino is on that tricky part
Yeah.
of Charlotte where
Yeah.
they can get chances and then get warm-nosed. So Jamie said January 17th. It was funny because I already had January 22nd down for me. 22 is just a good number. I'm going to go, if I'm saying we're going to get snow, I'm going to go a little bit more optimistic. Let's say 7. 7 inches.
That's pretty bold.
It is bold.
I
It
don't
is
think-
bold.
I don't think Charlotte has had an above normal snowfall
In
winter.
a long time. In
quite a
fact,
while.
if you look, a strong El Nino actually favors below normal for them, which
Yeah.
worries me a little bit
Yeah.
when I said it. But negative NAO, low pressures to the south. We'll see.
Okay.
So let us know, friends. January, and I did a later snowfall, so I think it even comes in later.
Yeah. I'm just kind of riding climatology for
That's smart.
for that.
That's smart.
It's hard to get it to snow around here until you get into January.
Yeah.
And around here, anywhere outside of the mountains in the Carolinas. It happens on occasion.
Man,
But-
if it snows on January 17th in Charlotte, we're clipping your clip and being
yeah.
like, first alert.
Done. Write my check. I'm retiring.
Right.
Nailed it.
Oh, my goodness. I think that's it for our winter weather. I don't know. Maybe we could do a recap or something down the road to see how well we
I
did.
think we should definitely probably do an update. Maybe as we kick off season 3 after the holidays.
Yeah.
Kind of where we are.
That would be fun.
You know.
Hey, welcome back.
what's-
Let's do a recap.
Yeah. Yeah. What's up with El Nino? How's NAO looking?
Okay.
Stuff like that.
And we'll see if we can make a graphic, too, to get people to guess. Like, hey, here's our guesses. What's yours?
Yeah.
So, all right, let's shoot the breeze.
We should also do a poll.
Oh, a poll. Okay.
Does it snow in Myrtle Beach this winter?
Ooh, that's good. Just snow, right?
Just snow. Doesn't have to be accumulating snow,
Okay.
but just flakes in the air.
I like it. That'd be good.
I'm trying to think.
Andrew and Jamie revealed their thoughts.
At
on
least,
our series.
you know, around here, I mean, we kind of joke about it. At least once per winter, you'll get at least something. Of course, it's not
flurries.
huge.
Well, it's like 2 in the morning, too.
Right, yeah. It's, you know, you'll get 4 flakes, yeah, like you said, at 3 in the morning behind a strong cold front. But last winter we didn't. We didn't have anything.
No.
The previous winter was actually kind of decent.
Yeah, it was fun.
We had a little ice storm, and then we had that a week
Dusting
later. We had a little dusting to an
on
inch.
the beach.
Yeah,
Which was nice.
So
yeah, I really think we'll see flakes. Flurries.
For the new people here, it's kind of crazy. When I first started here in 2008, the winter of 2008, 2009 was pretty good. These were from February 2009. The winter of 9-10 was really good.
I would kill for this.
We had the winter of 10-11. I don't think it was anything too crazy. But then we had 11-12, 12-13 were both big winners. We ended up covering a lot more winter weather here the first 5 years than we did tropical weather. It was every winter we were getting something pretty good.
I thought it was also interesting, and I mean, it makes sense. Only 3 El Niños since the 2000s. 2015 obviously was very strong. 2002, 2003, 2009, 2010, and then you'll have this one.
Yeah, and 2, 3, 9, 10 were both good winners in the Carolinas.
50s and 60s had some serious El Niños. But
That was a glorious time for weather patterns.
could you imagine?
Glorious time for weather patterns.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would love it. All right, let's shoot the breeze.
Okay.
If you are still here with us, thank you for sticking with us. You can ask your questions. We would love to see it. Love to read them.
Hopefully you're still here and not.
It's perfect that I drew this one first.
Okay.
I saved this. This is from Jenna's mom.
Oh.
Suzanne says, what is winter going to be like in the Northeast this year? Here comes
Probably
another
better.
10 minutes.
Yeah, probably better than last winter.
Yeah.
They had a terrible winter up north last
Awful.
winter. Awful. Even
think-
like New York City, Boston, I mean, just hardly
Yeah.
any snow.
It's so hard for me to say temperatures up there because I
Yeah.
know it's supposed to be like milder,
Yeah.
but it's still going to be cold.
But it's still, yeah. And that's the thing you have to realize. Even like in that map that we showed of the overall El Nino pattern, it has like the Dakotas and Montana and Colorado is
Yeah.
above normal. That doesn't mean it's 70.
It could be 2 to 3 degrees.
Yeah, instead of minus 20, it's
Correct.
minus 10.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
things are relative.
Uh-huh.
I think it's definitely better than last winter in
Yeah.
New England and the Northeast.
I think, too, it's all going to be dependent on that NAO a little bit because depending on where that storm track sets up, depends on your all's nor'easter potential.
Yeah.
So those low pressures typically can go right across the Ohio Valley and dump some serious snow. You get an active track that's further south, and it might be a little bit more calmer for them. It just
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah, a lot of times in NAO, it's if you get that negative NAO that we've been talking about, it can actually suppress the storm track far enough south
Yeah.
that those storms don't make that bend up the coast, or by the time they do, they're too far
Yeah.
out. So you kind of avoid the big blizzards and nor'easters in the Northeast. So that's kind of something that they watch. They're also big NAO people up there.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers some of it.
Yeah.
All right.
Another one that kind of ties into this.
Perfect.
Winter outlooks seem to be the big thing, especially in Kentucky. Are there also seasonal outlooks for spring, summer, and fall? And this is from David.
Great question, David.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. In Kentucky, they're like, especially on TV, it's like our winter weather outlook.
Right.
Friday at 6. And
Yeah.
then all the other people will do theirs.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But they do happen for spring and summer and fall.
Yeah. And I get them for places that have legitimate winters,
Yeah. Yeah.
like Kentucky, like New England, like
Yeah.
Colorado. I get the importance and significance of winter outlooks there, much like I get the significance of hurricane outlooks here that we do in the spring and summer. Winter out, even if we have a quote unquote bad winter where it gets cold a lot and it snows a lot, it's also going to do this. Every single winter here is back and forth. We get warm spells, we get cold spells. And so it just doesn't have as much value for us outside of a general broad brushed look at what may happen.
Yeah. Kentucky, too, David, if you're still tuning in and wondering about you, El Nino can be really good for the Ohio Valley. So, once again, it's kind of like New York. If that storm track stays a little bit further to the north, good luck. Have some fun. I mean, I remember some big snows. ice is also a problem in El Ninos,
Yeah.
especially for the Ohio Valley. So we'll see. David, thank you for watching from Kentucky. Appreciate the support. All right, we saved this question for last week. This is the one.
I'm still not ready for it.
We have another one. You get to trade places with one person for 24 hours. Who is it and why? I don't know a who. I mean, I guess I could pick anybody. I thought about this, and I think I'm going to go musician. I just want to know, not really the road life, but I want to know, like, what's it like? Because I'm a big music junkie. What's it like leading up to the show? The excitement builds around. What's it like going out there and hearing people sing your songs? Mm-hmm. What's road life like? What's the after party like? And then 24 hours, I'm up. I think I would take that.
There are so many caveats to that question. Like
There
we're
are.
talking about, are they dead? Are they alive? Are they? Am I exchanging? So I'm exchanging places with them.
Yeah.
Like my gut instinct was to say Jesus, so that I can figure it all out. But then I was like, do I want to know all that?
I love
Do I
that.
need to know all that?
I love that. Brownie point secured right there. It's not a bad one. I mean, I guess if
You know.
then you have all the answers.
I know, and that's where it gets philosophical. Do I want all the answers?
I'm trying to
That
think
might
who
be a lot
else.
to deal with. If it, wasn't for that, I still don't know. I still don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of somebody who was like a big, like went viral for their era and did nothing wrong, But I feel like there's always a scandal somewhere.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
That's a good question. I can't think anymore.
That's deep.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna move on. I'll just say Jesus.
I almost like the question better of like, who would you hang out with for 24 hours?
Definitely Jesus. Definitely Jesus.
Me and Jesus at the coffee shop. That's funny. I love it.
So tell me,
Tell me about your life.
what's it all about? And I think we've already pretty much answered this question from April. What makes winter forecasting so different, so difficult?
April.
Yeah.
Hit rewind.
If you take it back from the seasonal forecasting to just day-to-day forecasting, it can get kind of difficult. But of course, when you start talking about individual storms, especially the ones that have the potential to bring winter weather here, that's when I like to say that's when we earn our paycheck.
Yeah, for sure.
In the winter, because our proximity to the ocean really makes it tough.
I think also too tough too. Sorry.
To make a high confidence forecast.
And maybe that, I don't know, because this is what tore me up in Eastern Kentucky, and I love snow, but I lost so much sleep on it. The layers of the atmosphere in winter forecasting matter so much more. Not that they don't in, hurricanes or severe weather, because they do. But remember we talked about the atmosphere and how the clouds climb through those atmospheres, and we refer to the pressure levels as millibars, but you go so high up, and you can have a warm layer of air just above the surface in a winter storm. Everything's there. But if you miss that one layer, if it's a little bit warmer than
It can be a thin layer.
and it could even be to where it doesn't show up on models.
Yeah.
Until the morning of, where they send a balloon up, and you're like,
Oh, that's going to change things.
that's different.
Yeah.
To where it completely ruins everything.
Yeah. So
And
you end up getting sleet instead of snow.
That's the problem. I think
Yeah.
that's the tough part. And severe weather's that way too. But at least with severe weather, when those changes happen, it's not a complete well, whatever.
Yeah.
Usually it shifts.
Yeah.
Like, hey, the threat's not as high here, but I think it's shifting to the north.
Yeah.
With snow,
Yeah.
I've seen so many setups where it's like, oh, this is it. Rain. 33-degree rain. And that's what makes winter weather so impossible.
Yeah. A lot of people, I think, the obviously the focus is on the weather that's down here where we are. So, okay, it's cold down here, so it's going to snow.
Yeah.
Well, no, like you said, you have to, it's everything happening above you, and so many things, especially here, that warm layer that you were talking about. It's that warm layer that oftentimes kills our snow chance because of our typical storm track. Any kind of an easterly wind that's coming in off the ocean is going to drive in that warm air. Even in the most bitter cold winters, that Atlantic stays warm, relatively speaking. So any onshore wind, and you drive in that warm layer. And so you can get 33, 34 in rain.
It's the worst forecast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough.
I've even had it, too, where it's like 30 degrees at the surface, and it's pouring rain. And everyone says, well, this isn't possible. Well, it is, because a mile above you, it's 36.
Yeah.
Welcome to the freaking struggle. Like,
Yeah.
those are the days that I don't miss.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there, and it's pouring, and you're like, even every weather station says below freezing.
Yeah.
And then you look into the models and to the actual data, and it's like, well, there it is.
Yeah. I've never, since being here in Myrtle Beach, I've never gone into a winter storm with any confidence. Any confidence
I get
whatsoever.
Yeah.
So every one of them is literally waiting until it starts to see how it's going to unfold.
Yeah.
And even then, it's still not a guarantee. I think we've talked about on this podcast, the biggest bust I've ever had here was the winter storm that we had in 2018. Man, you want to talk about a classic setup for snow, negative NAO. It was snowing the day before. It was snowing in New Orleans. It was snowing in Biloxi, Mississippi. Got up the morning. Our forecast, like I said, was for 2 to 4 inches of snow here. Got up that morning. It was in the 20s. By that morning, it was snowing in Savannah. It was snowing in Charleston, and it was all just rolling up the coast. And I was like, got it. Got it. We nailed this one. And then it started to sleet here instead of snow.
That'll do it.
And we were supposed to, by that afternoon, we were supposed to change over or have steady snow. And it just kind of would spit a little freezing rain, a little sleet, a little flake here and there. And the moisture just stopped. It just stopped and would not make it into Horry County, would not make it into the Grand Strand. Conway, 4 inches of snow. Florence, 5 inches of snow. Georgetown, 6 inches of snow. Myrtle Beach finally got a dusting.
That's insane.
North of us, Calabash, Wilmington, 5 inches of snow. Myrtle Beach, yeah.
We had something like that in Eastern Kentucky.
And I've never gotten hate mail like I did that day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
It'll happen. Well, in Eastern Kentucky, too, and this is the same way with the mountains in North Carolina or Tennessee, you get, your ridges. You get your valleys. I remember vividly we had a system that moved through, and the base of Eastern Kentucky, at least the viewing area, got 2 to 3 inches. Great, whatever. The ridges got 12. I mean, you had 12. You have people with 12 inches. You had 3, and then in the valleys, nada.
yeah.
And people were fired up. And we're talking like it's not a big drop to get down. But, I mean, schools were closed everywhere because you couldn't drive down the mountain. You couldn't drive up the mountain. It was a mess, but so much hate mail. Well, my neighbor got 3 inches of snow, but I got nothing.
Yeah.
And it was mainly sleet and freezing rain in the valleys. So,
Since that 2018 disaster, if we have winter weather of any potential here, I always go into it with the mindset of
this will change.
Whatever it takes for it to not happen is kind of what I'm going to go with.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into any winter weather forecasting event here extremely conservative and extremely doubtful of anything happening.
Well, and it's important you say that too, because no one's going to call you and complain if it
overperforms.
Correct.
Yeah. And you can kind of catch up with that.
Yeah.
So if we have something that's coming and we're like, maybe a little sleet and freezing rain, and then as we get closer or as the event unfolds and it looks like it is going to be something, it's much easier to ratchet up a forecast than to bring one down.
Yeah.
People love it when you go from maybe an inch to maybe 4 inches.
Oh, yeah.
If you go from maybe 4 inches to just rain, they hate it.
Yeah.
So And that's where we always talk about the magic and the psychology of this business.
Yeah.
That's where it comes in.
That's actually a really good point.
Always start really low.
Yeah.
Start low, especially around here.
Yeah. In an area that does not get snow, always start low.
Low and conservative.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Think that it probably won't happen.
And then tweak if you need to.
Tweak as you go.
No one will ever hate you for bringing them the good news of snow unless they hate it.
Yeah.
So,
Can we talk about that?
Hate snow?
Yeah, the guy from Twitter the other day.
Oh.
If you're my Twitter followers, please go check out the thread. It was Friday, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I can't say the name, obviously. But
I can't either. But I posted, basically, it was something about average snowfall during winter, during El Nino winters. And I was like, hey, snow lovers in the Carolinas, because we're snow lovers in the Carolinas. And also, I'm a meteorologist, so I tweet about weather. This dude came for me over and over and over. On a Friday when I was off work, and I was just happened to be fired up enough. I may have been sitting on the patio drinking a Cosmo when I started firing back at him.
Oh, and you didn't just fire; you fired back hard.
I fired back hard, and then you know what? My peeps came for him,
and he
my
stopped.
Peeps stood up for me, and yeah, he stopped. So if you're a Twitter follower, go back to Friday, and you'll see my post, and you'll kind of see just some of the crazies that we deal with. And maybe he's a viewer. If you're a viewer or a listener, dude, stop.
And this is what makes the world go around. If we get snow this year, does that mean you move further south? Jamie Arnold.
Yeah,
that's what you said to him.
Because he said, if you want snow, go further north. You'll get sick of it. And then he just kept coming back.
I love it. I love it. I think that's a good place to end it.
I think so, too.
Also, we got to say, breaking news.
Yes. It has happened. Matt Stanley has agreed to it.
Yeah.
Matt Stanley, our boss, has agreed to the podcast.
I don't know what happened.
So that's coming up in two weeks?
I think 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Kristen's going to be next week.
Yeah. So we'll have Kristen, then we'll have Matt, then we have, is that Thanksgiving? Where we're taking a break?
Yes. Yes.
When are Mitch and Aaron coming?
After Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I think they come technically to record it like a week of or the week before.
Okay.
Look at my notes. I have no idea where we are. But yeah, I'm it's like, what year am I on?
Also, can we talk about Jenna, former intern, who, by the way, will be coming back to do a little fill-in work over the holidays.
Yeah.
She has left little notes.
Oh, on yours too?
In the Weather Center that we just kind of occasionally find. So in my little notebook, I was flipping through, and the other day I get a little note, hi, Jamie, have a great day. Jenna, best intern ever.
She's putting it into your mind that you can never
She's
forget
making
her.
sure that we never forget her, so thanks, Jenna.
She also wrote it on the calendar.
On the calendar, yeah. So
Which
when
I
we flipped to
thought was
October, there was
hilarious.
a little note from Jenna. Yeah.
I had it here somewhere, but we'll figure it out later.
Okay.
But yeah, Kristen, Matt, we have a break, Mitch, and then
Holiday party.
Holiday.
Are you Cirrus?
December 7th.
Yeah.
That Thursday.
Yeah.
So that does it.
That does it.
Basically, we have no idea what's going to happen for winter.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted. We'll let you know come mid-February how winter's going.
But you heard our bold predictions, and we can't wait to hear yours.
Yeah.
That does it. That was a fun episode.
It was. It was good. It was fun.
All right. Bye, friends.
Thanks.